Having a studio located in a rural area the way I do, really, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, at first seemed like a bit of a liability, and I think some people around me thought I was a little crazy attempting to build a studio where I did. But it's proven to be a real asset because people seem to really enjoy getting out of the city. It's a nice drive to get here, and when they arrive, there's no distractions, and there's lots of nature around. You can go for a walk out behind the studio, up the mountain, or down the road, and it's all pastures and farmland. It's a really beautiful area to be creative and get away from it all. In the late 90s, I had a studio in my garage in Duncan, which started out, I was in a band, we just needed to record our songs, and seemed like the way to do it because there weren't a lot of options for studios at that time. And eventually, the band kind of petered out, but I had this equipment at that point, and people heard about that, and they started asking me to record their music as well. And then it kind of overtook my regular job, and I got very busy doing it, and I decided to make the leap in the summer of 2000. We bought this property and started building the studio, and there was an industrial woodworking shop on the property that we turned into the current studio, Woodshop. Because I came into it as a musician first, needing a place to record my band songs, we just jumped in, and so I knew more about music than I did about recording in the beginning. That knowledge has been really useful because it lets me speak the language of musicians, and some technicians don't have that ability and it's much harder to communicate. I'm able to offer suggestions for arrangements. I understand how each of the instruments fit into a song, and I feel like I can relate to the clients much better that way with my musical background. I feel really fortunate that I've managed to avoid being pigeonholed into a specific genre or sound. I've worked with everything from punk bands to symphonies, military bands, and everything in between. I'm comfortable with acoustic music, electric music, live location recording and studio recording. And I've even done a fair amount of work in the film and TV industry as audio post-production, recording, editing, dialogue, mixing for broadcast, that sort of thing. I'm just sort of amazed it's been 20 years and proud to have survived that long in an industry where people often don't. And the advantage of being around so long is, well, there's the obvious one, experience. After a certain point, you've seen it all and heard it all. But also over time, you refine the building and the studio itself, and eventually you start amassing a lot of equipment that you don't have in the beginning. There's different types of producers. Some are very heavy-handed producers who have a distinctive sound that they sort of stamp on everything they work on, and there's some amazing producers who have made a career out of that, whose work I really enjoy. But I fall more on the other side. I'm a little more passive. My philosophy is to generally try and figure out what the vision is of the artist, how they hear themselves, and how they'd like to be represented. And I try and stay out of the way as much as possible. It doesn't mean I won't get involved. I'll make suggestions for arrangements, and I will offer any advice that I think will be helpful in the session. But ideally, I'm trying to be a little bit invisible and really showcase the artist and not have it sounding like another record made by me. I'd like to think that the products that come out of here are pretty diverse because of that.
Because it gets into you. As the time rolls down the road, it gets into you. You say just another month or so, it gets into you. Despite everything you know, it gets into you, you. Because you call it home. Because you call it home. Because it gets into you.